Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And more cards using things from Simon Says Stamps April 2025 release. I posted a video just yesterday, day before, whenever. It'll be linked in the end screen at the end of the video. And this time I used some other items from the release. I did some really simple watercolor using Simon's Positively Saturated inks. This is the type of watercolor that anyone can do, in my opinion. And yeah, 3D embossing folder, die cutting, really simple watercolor, splatter, all the fun things. As always, everything I used will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. That's what helps pay the bills, keeps the channel going, all the things. I will also have info in my blog post, which is always linked directly below my videos as well, because I'm part of a blog hop today for this release, so it's worth checking out because there's usually a code. There's also tons of inspiration because I'll have links to everyone else hopping along. So worth checking out because the makers are just fabulous. So info will be below, and then just keep watching and we'll get into making the cards. So I'm starting off with the Hopping Hexagons 3D embossing folder. And this first panel, this is just watercolor paper, like lightweight watercolor paper. I haven't had the best results trying to use like the normal heavyweight, like my Canson XL watercolor paper, like the stuff that's, 140 pound. I haven't really had much success with that in my embossing folders. So this is just thin watercolor paper. And the first panel I ran through just as is. And it cracked, and I'm actually going to be able to show that. So the second panel, I misted with water, like I tend to do. It just sort of sometimes depends on my mood, but patterns like this, while they're not super deep, because of the straight lines and the geometric pattern of it, I do recommend misting your cardstock. So you can see there where it literally splits apart. Honestly, a lot of times when that happens, sometimes it'll just be like little areas of the pattern. I don't even care. I keep doing my thing because once I glue everything down, you're not even going to be able to tell. It just depends. So this is what I mean by misting your cardstock first with a bit of water, because it just softens those paper fibers before you run it through your machine. So I've got these panels, and it's watercolor paper that I've embossed with this embossing folder. And then I just laid them on top of my flour sack towel, sprayed them with even more water just to let things like move around more. And then this is literally what I mean when I say I'm slapping the color on. I'm just smushing some of Simon's Positively Saturated inks onto a palette, picking it up with a big fat watercolor brush, and slapping on the color. That's it. Simple. It's fun. And you can always experiment. You can try like watercoloring some panels, ink blotting, doing whatever appeals to you. You could do it first and then emboss. You'll just get a different look. That's it. Quite often I like embossing or doing whatever first because the color is going to move differently. It's gonna gather in different areas and do different things. So I was counting on that, and I'm literally just slapping that color on and just letting it do its thing. So the specific colors I used for the background was Cozy, Heather, and Aspen inks. And yeah, this is one of my the biggest Altenew brush in the little set of watercolor brushes I'd bought a couple years ago, whenever it was. So I did that to the backgrounds and then set them aside. And then my other like kind of focus for this cards is the Poised Primula wafer die set. This might become another. I say this with everything. They're all my favorites. Honestly, I love everything. I wouldn't show it if I didn't like it. But anyway, I die cut this from watercolor paper as well. I die cut scraps. I have a lot, as you can see, quite a few little pieces here. Yeah, I stuck them to one of my little stamp and stencil mats. I purposely chose that mat over like my grip mats that I show in a bajillion videos. The grip mats are grippy. This Stamp and Stencil mat is sticky. Like it's not super sticky, but it's got like a stick to it. I don't wash this mat. As you can see, it is stained. When it gets really gunky with ink, paint, whatever, I rinse it off under just warm water. It'll still be stained, but I just rinse it off. I don't scrub it because scrubbing it, you'll remove that actual adhesive on it. And then I let it air dry and then it's fine. So I chose this for these pieces because I'm watercoloring them, and this mat, because it's actually sticky, holds them in place a little bit better. And I've sped this up in editing, but honestly, this again, I was slapping the color on. I'm not doing anything fancy. And because these die cuts have all that piercing detail, that's another reason why more often than not I prefer to die cut first than watercolor, because the color will kind of seep in and sink into those pierced areas and just creates different looks. But again, you could watercolor little or ink blend little panels, die cut them afterwards. I prefer doing it like this more often than not. It's just fun. And yeah, I was swirling my brush and slapping that color on. For the all the greenery, I used those same two inks, the Cozy and the Aspen, and I also added Kale, which was the really dark green. For the flowers, I used the Heather, a bit of the Cozy, which was that gray shade, and then Iris, which is the darkest purple. And then for the flower centers, that was also that Cozy color. So just that's a really like kind of a warm neutral gray. So same thing, just slapping it on. And I've talked about this before. I've been watercoloring or experimenting with watercoloring because I'm by no means an expert in any way, shape, or form. But I've been doing it for so long now because I started experimenting with watercolor, around 10 years ago? I forget how long it's been. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. But the more I've done it, the more comfortable I am. And I especially love doing things like this. It's been a hot minute since I've sat and kind of watercolor little die cuts. And doing this, and this just literal pile of die cuts, I was very much enjoying this. So I watercolored everything and then just let it sit on the mat, let it fully air dry. Once it was dry, I start assembling. And you can kind of do whatever you want with this little set. You can just use the flowers individually. Some of them I'm going to keep individual, but a bunch of them I layered together just to give them more depth. And then another thing I started doing was I started curling up these petals because, that also builds dimension, everything. However, once I started doing it, I was like, I am going to be here all day. I've got like 50 of these things sitting here. I have no idea how many exactly, but there's a lot. And I was like, no. I like the look of the petals curled up, and I was like, I'm not going to sit here and curl up every single petal. I have things to do. And then I remembered that I have a foam pad and some large stylus tools. I will link to a set that Tim Holtz released. I think this was like last year or the year before. I forget. It wasn't that long ago. It's kind of the same thing. The only reason I never ordered his was I was like, oh yeah, I've got these. I've got this brown foam pad. It was literally meant for stuff like this. And then this great big stylus tool. And that's all you do is you lay whatever die cuts you want onto it. And then you just press that stylus tool into them and swirl the tool around like in just little circular motions. And that creates the raised look. It immediately curls up the cardstock so much faster than doing this with my fingers. So that was the next thing I did, was just laying them out on the little foam pad and then just swirling my stylus over it, pressing it in, and it curls everything up for me. I forgot I had this. It's been a long time since I've used this, but it's so good. It's so good. So I need to do this more often because we have so many little floral die cuts. So this would work perfectly for. You could also use it on things like the leaves. Instead of doing like a circular motion, something like those leaves, I would press the tool and run it vertically, like up and down the leaf, and that would curl it up. So it's another one of those things, though, where you just got to experiment. It will also depend on the weight of the paper you're using. The heavier weight of the cardstock, the more pressure you're going to have to use. So, yeah, simple way to create a lot of dimension and texture. For my sentiments, I used, this is the new flowering frame set, which is just lovely. Love it. I just used a couple sentiments from the set and I just white heat embossed them onto some scraps of black cardstock. I die cut them with the coordinating wafer die, and then I die cut more scraps of black cardstock with the same wafer dies. And then I'm just stacking those together to give it dimension. You know, dimension is life and habit. Literally habit. So I stacked all those layers together with Craft Aki glue. And then I showed these in my previous video for this release. This is one of the new shimmery vellums. Chef's Kiss, love. This is the bronze vellum. And I die cut that with one of the Petal tipped labels wafer dies. And then to adhere everything, because with vellum, adhesive technically shows through it. These vellums might be a little bit of an exception because they're not your typical more transparent vellum, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. So I adhered a couple of the stems together. I had also had an extra leaf that I trimmed and added. And then I adhered those to the vellum piece. Right now the vellum is not, attached to the card front. And then I adhered the sentiment. And then I can hide all the adhesive behind those pieces so that you're not going to see it. So I put that adhesive into place and then pop this onto my card front. And then I just put like my magnets on top of it just to hold everything down because I am adhering to a fair bit of texture because of that 3D embossing folder. And then once that glue is dry, then I can adhere all my flowers. And you can see on the right there, this is another reason why I like to do more than one card at a time, is I can use one as a template. Because I can sit off camera, fiddle around, figure out my layout, that sort of a thing. And then once I'm happy with it, I can turn the camera on and film the second one and make it look like I'm super smart and I know exactly where everything's going to go. Yeah, that's because I figured it out off camera. I'm not this good, just it's 99% of the time it is the magic of video editing, folks. Like, yeah, honestly, it just is what it is. Anyway, I roughed up the edges of this cardstock that I had, the watercolor paper that I had embossed and everything. And you can see I'm very carefully holding it with my fingers. I didn't use my Tim Holtz paper distresser tool on this. One, because I didn't want it as roughed up, and two, you'd have to be even extra careful because like I was saying in the beginning, the cardstock can split because of just this type of pattern. It just does. It just does. So I just carefully held it, used my fingernail, roughed it up a little bit, curled up the edges, just to give it that extra rustic look, I guess. And then stuck both these card fronts into my spot box because of course I'm going to add a ton of splatter. So I put some white gouache onto my little palette, watered it down, and then used my fan brush to add a lot. I added a lot to the white splatter because just with all the texture, everything going on, it called for it. I don't know. You guys know, I like splatter. It just adds to it. So I added a bunch of white splatter, and then I took the black gouache with a much lighter amount and a much lighter hand. And same thing, watered it down a little bit, and then I'm going to add splatter. And I did not protect the sentiments. I was gonna put the stamps on top of the sentiments to mask them. I've shown that in many videos. Honestly, I was just so into the splatter, I didn't even think about it till I was done, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's a thing. Thankfully, I did not get splatter on top of the sentiments, so we're good. And if I had messed them up, honestly, I would have just made a couple more sentiments and glued them on top. There's always ways to fix it. So, splattered that black gouache onto both of these card fronts, and then cleaned everything off. And then I have panels of white cardstock that I'm going to stamp sentiments from the new CZ Design Inside Greetings 1 set. Featured this in the previous video that I did with the new release as well. Love it. Love it. It's like Kathy read my mind. And I said in the other video, and I'm saying it again, I assume that because it says Inside Greetings 1, that there will be future sets. I am putting my vote in for future sets. 1, always love everything Kathy Zilski comes out with. And 2, y'all know, I like to finish the insides of my cards. Bring it on. The more sentiments, the better. Also, putting the vote in, I told her this in like a recent live. More snarky sentiments, please. My vote is in for that. I'm slowly peer pressuring her into it. Okay, back to the cards. So I stamped the sentiments with the First Fine Clair Nocturne ink. My card base is eggplant cardstock. Love. I've been hoarding this stuff. It came out. Simon released a few new colors late last year. I forget when. I have been hoarding this eggplant cardstock because it's absolutely gorgeous and it's heavyweight and I love it. But I sacrificed a piece of it, cut it in half, made them into top folding A2 note cards, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And then I adhered those white cardstock panels to the inside, adhered my remaining little die cuts, adhered the card fronts to the card bases, and then my final little embellishment is the Lilac Embellishment Mix. It's just meant to be. I've been very much in a purple mood lately. I go through phases with everything, and purple always makes a appearance, and these were fun. These were fun, and so much texture, and I mean it. Easy watercolor, you know? It's so fun. So, like I said in the intro, I will have links to all of the things in the description box below the video, as well as a link to my blog post, which worth checking out because all the other makers that are taking part, there's going to be so much inspiration, so much fun, and giveaways and all the things. So check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so very much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting. It really helps a ton. I very much appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!